Today on the Locked On Hornets podcast, Doug reveals his big board. What are the players on his wish list for the Charlotte Hornets? We give you another mock draft, and we find the local angle on the Celtics dropping another game of the playoffs after having a 20-point lead. That's all today. Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast. That includes YouTube. There's Doug Branson. Find him on everyhornetsboxscore.com. Also listen to his other podcast, Locked On NBA. He's doing a whole bunch of stuff. Make sure you check it all out. I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. I can't wait to talk about the Celtics dropping another one. Good God, it is not going well up in Boston. So we'll be talking about that a little bit later on, though. As it pertains to Charlotte, Charles Lee, do they need him in order to go back to the championship? That's a question that we'll ask. But first, we got to reveal your big board. I can't wait to critique this thing, Doug. I can't wait to criticize all of it. But you have a big board for the Hornets, and I guess you only have to go with 8 players, right? The worst thing that can happen is that they drop to 7. Knock on wood that they don't find another way to make this thing worse.
Oh, well, we'll just have to see. It's my big board. I can do whatever I want to. There's no rules. Are there rules for a big board? I don't think so. We'll just see what happens. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready for your big board, man. So I assume I know the first and the second player. I think I know the third, but let's hear it.
All right, number 1, Cooper Flagg. I wish I had a sounder for this. We used to have an organ sounder for this.
We used to do stuff like that. Yeah, we don't anymore.
This used to be a real podcast.
Oh, man, we're going downhill like the team is. But we'd go uphill. Maybe we get sound if Cooper Flagg is the first overall pick.
No, I like to think of it as this podcast holding the Hornets hostage. It's like we're not going to be a good podcast until you start winning basketball games. That's our threat.
That is a threat. It's a promise, and it's a threat. Until you start winning, we won't give you any sounders. We won't give you any of that familiar noise that you used to appreciate.
A thromus. Number 1, Cooper Flagg.
Mm-hmm. Number 1, Cooper Flagg. Makes all the sense in the world. Don't need to discuss him much unless we want to just use his name for the thumbnail to get more clicks. Other than that, we can just go to Dylan Harper if you want to. I assume Dylan Harper is number 2.
You assume correctly. Dylan Harper, I think he would be... I don't know that he's a perfect backcourt mate for LaMelo Ball, but I think he is a more than suitable backcourt mate because I think he's score first more than pass first. I think LaMelo Ball could do for a little bit more pass first than score first. I mean, we saw the like full culmination of score first LaMelo Ball, and while it resulted in him getting a 50-point game and a couple of 40 burgers, it didn't result in as much Hornets winning. And there were it's all complicated. I get it. But I think, having that distribution be a little bit different. And it would help, I think, in terms of the contrast between Dylan Harper and Brandon Miller. I think they are 2 different players. And that Dylan Harper is more of a downhill wing or guard wing combo. And then Brandon Miller, obviously, we just got done with his season review. And one of the things that we said was, his dribbling needs to improve. His getting to the rim needs to improve. Maybe it doesn't have to improve as drastically if you have someone next to him like Dylan Harper.
Dylan Harper and LaMelo Ball, I'm totally fine with. That is the similarity of the whole 2023 convo, drafting Scoot with LaMelo still on your team. The biggest difference is we're 2 years removed from that version of LaMelo that had only had 1 season with injury issues, or at least 1 season with significant injury issues. Since then, we've gone through 2. So now everything has changed, and Dylan Harper alongside LaMelo or potentially as a LaMelo replacement 2 years from now. I don't want that. I want LaMelo and Dylan to be on the court at the same time. I will say we talked about this a little bit more on Weston Walker, the draft, and we talked about Dylan Harper, where I'm telling you I'm all in on him being the second overall pick. feels like I was getting more pushback on the famous FanDuel text line on Weston Walker, more so than we get in the comment section here or with some of the listeners with Locked On Hornets. And I don't know if you feel differently. I don't feel like we get any Dylan Harper pushback, but I was getting comments on the text line like, what are you going to do? Play 3 point guards 30 minutes a game when they brought Tre Mann into the equation? I was like, no, but also, yeah, like not 30, but we can play him 25 and LaMelo get all of the minutes, and you can't make future decisions by who you have on the roster right now and letting talent walk out the door. I hate that combo. That's 2023 all over again. Just go get the freaking talented player at 2. We can't worry about it.
Yeah, look, it's not a great argument to bring up now because the Cavs are in an 0-2 hole, but they play a ton of guards and a ton of ball-heavy guards. I mean, Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. And honestly, part of the reason they're in a 2-0 hole is because Darius Garland has not been available to play. If they had both of those guards going at the same time, like you still need lots of guards. I know like double big lineup is currently the thing that we're talking about a lot, but you still need a lot of shooting talent. You still need a lot of scoring talent to win in the NBA.
Ty Jerome, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, and
Sam
Sixth Man of
Merrill.
the Year candidate had heat. You got guys, man. So, anyways, I don't think we've gotten that on Locked On Hornets nearly as much, but I ran into that a little bit on WFNZ yesterday.
And honestly, look, if they draft Dylan Harper, I think it's going to be more so of a let's see if LaMelo and Dylan work out, and if they don't, then let's move on from LaMelo. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think if Dylan Harper is who I think everybody thinks he is, that's going to be more so the conversation, a year or two from now, more than like, ooh, this isn't working. We've got to figure out what to do with Dylan Harper. I mean, I'm always an advocate of bring talent on board. But again, if you are not a team that is anywhere near playoff level, because if you're sort of on the fringe, then I can buy an argument of like, you really got to be careful with fit here and messing up the chemistry and blah, 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 blah. But if you haven't made the playoffs since 2016, if you haven't won a playoff series in 23 years, if you won 19 games last season, then fit be damned. You just go and get the talent and you let all that stuff play out. You have a point guard battle, if you will, or you have a scoring battle between these guys, and you see who's left at the end and who you want to move on with.
Last thing on Dylan, it takes away credit from LaMelo if you don't think that he can play alongside Dylan. Like it will at least just not giving him a chance to figure it out. LaMelo can do this. That's the most frustrating part, especially with people who want LaMelo to be the guy and the only guy. No, let's give him some talent. Let's give him a backcourt mate to run with alongside Brandon too, who can play some 2 and 3. And LaMelo can shoot the basketball. It frees him up. Like it helps him. Why do his own fans want to continue to hurt him? It's so frustrating. I hate it. But here
because
I know the answer
we hurt
why,
the people
too,
that we love the most. I mean,
it's true. It's true. Yeah.
Also, this conversation would be different if LaMelo was a 3-time All-Star and had played 65 games plus for the past 3 seasons.
Especially that part. Especially that part.
All right, really quickly here, Tre Johnson, I've talked a lot about him. He's number 3 on my list. I was listening to Sam Vecenie yesterday, who has had a chance to watch him work out and interview him, and he loves that kid. And he says the things that Sam Vecenie was saying on the latest episode of his podcast about Tre Johnson, I just kept thinking, oh my God, Jeff Peterson and Charles Lee are going to love that. Like if he shows up, like Sam Vecenie's saying that Tre Johnson shows up for these workouts and giving it the kind of intensity that he was giving these workouts, if he does that for the Hornets, I can't see a world in which they don't fall in love with this kid. And I think maybe they fall in love more with the defensive upside of VJ Edgecombe. But I love Tre Johnson as an offensive player. I think he's fully built to be an elite offensive player. And I think the shot selection issues were a Texas issue, not a Tre Johnson issue. And I think he has defensive upside. He's not going to be a great defender, but I think he showed enough at Texas in terms of just like awareness of where he is on the court that he can come into the NBA and be an okay defender and an elite offensive player. And honestly, if you watched the Hornets at all last season, you know they could use a little bit of that. And that's why I have him just slightly above Kon Kneuppel, who I think can be a better defensive player, but athletically is just nowhere near Tre Johnson. And I think, that's the scary thing for Tre Johnson is will he fill out defensively? The scary thing for Kon Kneuppel is the athleticism. You can teach one of those things. You can coach one of those things. I'm not sure you can't really like inject Kon Kneuppel with something that's going to make him more athletic.
Yeah, so a couple things there with you going Tre Johnson 3, Kon Kneuppel 4. Tre Johnson, this is the issue, though, with the long wingspan thing. He has that. I think he's 6'5", 6'6", with a 6'10" wingspan, which helps you. It gives you the tools to be good defensively, but that doesn't always pan out. We run into that issue a lot. Oh, long arms, he'll be fine, and they're not. Slight in frame with Tre as well, so you're not banking on that, but perhaps it's there, and you can unlock it. It's easy to fall in love with Tre. What's not to like? There's some rim pressure stuff. He doesn't get there a lot. He settles for long twos, which I don't love. But you mentioned the shot selection. It's totally fine. It's easy to fall in love with Tre. And then Kon Kneuppel, does he turn into Dalton Connect? And I hate that I just went with a same race comparison. I try to find cross-racial comparisons. But the question is, Dalton Connect, does Kon Kneuppel become such a liability defensively where he's the really good shooter that can do some stuff with the ball in his hands like Dalton, but then falls out of the rotation like pretty immediately? The good news is he's not nearly as old as Dalton Connect. So we don't have this finished product in Knueppel like a lot of people hypothesize with Connect coming into the NBA. So there's a big difference there. But I'm with you, man. I like Knueppel. I think he's big and strong, and he actually takes contact well. And that ACC tournament run, without Cooper Flagg on the floor, Knueppel was the guy, and they won the whole thing. They won the whole tournament. He was the lead dog, getting to the paint, excellent lob passes too. Like, he can work with a dunker spot guy. I'm with Knueppel. You got him at number 4. Let's split it in half. Let's talk about your second half of your big board. Coming up next,
I might have more. I might have more than 8. You never know.
That's true. That is true. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
Some interesting names not revealed by Doug yet. Where's VJ Edgecombe? Where's Ace Bailey? Is there a new name that we haven't talked about a whole lot in Doug's top 8? MySpace, baby, comes up next. Locked On Hornets. This episode is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Finding the right talent is easy when you have Upwork. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. Plus, they give you cost-effective growth. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK, Upwork.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. This episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Hit it, Doug. Game Time.
Game time?
There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena. It's electric. Doot, 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 doot. With Game Time, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals, they can save you up to 60%. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. Locked On NBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. It's electric. Doot, 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 doot. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Top 4 guys on Doug's big board: Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, Tre Johnson, Kon Kneuppel. 3 and 4. It's slightly surprising. Maybe not 3, but 4. I didn't know Kon would be 4. So interesting there. No VJ, no Ace. Is that the name that we're going to see? VJ, is he here at number 5, Doug? Tell the people.
VJ is here at number 5. I just believe that Tre Johnson will become a better defender than VJ, an offensive player. And so that's why I have him below Tre. And I just like the Kon Kneuppel fit a little bit better than VJ. So I have him I would say 4A, 4B, Kon Kneuppel, VJ Edgecombe. I think the Hornets would probably fall in love with Edgecombe's defensive upside over Knueppel, but just on my big board, I've got Knueppel slightly.
I agree. I wonder about, so we know they loved Stephon Castle last year. Seems like a VJ Edgecombe type guy. We also know that there was some reported love for Reed Shepherd. So who does that fit? Because he's smaller than Knueppel, but he's the shooter that Knueppel is. It's not really a Tre Johnson with a go get his own bucket. Like I don't know if there's a Reed Shepherd comp, but trying to figure out who they liked last year and applying that to this year, it feels like the VJ Edgecombe Stephon Castle comp is the best one. Guard, not necessarily that impressive of a shooter, but going to give it to you all defensively. So VJ and even Tre with the attitude that you were talking about, if you're asking for Hornets DNA guys, those two seem to fit the bill the best. If it comes down to the Hornets getting a 3 through 5 pick.
I don't know if this is just the result of the Hornets needing 1,000 things, but I just love that all of these players really do present something that the Hornets need. I mean, when you're talking about Tre Johnson, just a knockdown shooter, they need somebody that's like that with Kon Kneuppel and VJ Edgecombe. Both those guys can put pressure on the rim, and they definitely need some more of that. I mean, if you look at their numbers, frequency at the rim, accuracy at the rim, the Hornets just were not doing enough of that last season, even before the injuries. I mean, I just think it's a general problem with this roster. And so, but all three of those guys, and Dylan Harper and Cooper Flagg, they just all fit those needs. But number 6 on my big board is trade back and get a 3-and-D veteran plus draft capital. And so, I really think if the Hornets are in a situation where they're 6 or 7 and Johnson, Knueppel, and Edgecombe are all off the board, then you probably just bail out. And you say, all right, we're going to move back and get a 3-and-D veteran, maybe get like some smaller draft capital, and let's see what we can do next season. 7 on my board would be Carter Bryant out of Arizona, because I think he is a little bit of that. You're going to have to wait for a little while, but he is a little bit of that 3-and-D sort of mold in Carter Bryant. 8 would be trade back and get a high-value sophomore or junior NBA player. So you're going after some young talent, and maybe you don't trade back as far in the first round, and you could target, I don't know. I mean, maybe you could target Carter Bryant if he falls out of the top 10. Or the guy that I have in the 9th position on my big board, Derek Queen. So you get a big who can give you a little bit more offensively than, really anyone on your current roster.
That's his game, man. He's just impressive as an offensive force, yeah.
And then 10 would be trade back and get multiple future draft picks. So that would be 10 on my board. Just go ahead and pile up the assets. And then 11 would be Ace Bailey. And this is not really about Ace Bailey more than just like his fit, and that I think Tre Johnson, Kon Kneuppel, VJ Edgecombe, all three of those guys, and Carter Bryant, really give you something that Brandon Miller doesn't. It's less about LaMelo and more about Brandon. And I think Ace Bailey is just too close to what you already have in Brandon Miller, that you're not filling any gaps. It's going to result in Ace Bailey not getting the playing time that anyone wants, including Ace Bailey, and that's just going to cause ripple effect problems that I think, and I just got done saying fit doesn't matter, look for talent, but when it's that obvious, yeah, it's particularly for a player who's, I think, an Ace Bailey who's going to need playing time, that's going to be a problem for Ace. It's going to be a problem for the team. It doesn't work.
Well, especially if you don't feel like he's going to hit his ceiling. If Ace Bailey hits his ceiling, you take him. But if you feel like the odds are right, but if you feel like the odds are much more against that, because that's the game we have to play. Nobody knows anything with the NBA draft, but we all have to play this game and try to figure it out. We're always looking for the answers. We'll never find them. We'll get lucky sometimes, and we'll get unlucky sometimes. Ace Bailey is the biggest.
That sounded like you were writing a number one country western hit.
We all get lucky sometimes in the NBA draft. I'm singing a lot today. I could go Josh Turner style country, though. I fully believe that. Album dropping soon. But that's the Ace Bailey conundrum. Ace Bailey is the guy that you're going to feel the most nervous selecting and the most nervous not selecting. That's what Ace Bailey is going to be. It's the passing stuff. I value it so much. If you lose your handle when you get crowded and you're not a good passer, that seems like a disaster waiting to happen in the half court. and it doesn't mean that he can't work on it. Somebody should take a chance on Ace Bailey. I don't know if you should take a chance on Ace if you have the 3rd overall pick and you have all these other tantalizing prospects. When you're willing to take a chance on Ace, I'm probably with you more so. Like I'd probably look at him in that 7-8 range. And if the Hornets get number 7, that's the time where it could be a real scenario. But yeah, those are our thoughts on Ace. I think you and I are somewhat aligned on that. It seems like it.
Well, that's the issue, is that he's not, I don't think he's going to make it to 7 or 8. He's going to get taken before then, but if the Hornets are in the position to take him, I don't think they should, because of the options that are available, because of Tre Johnson, Kon Kneuppel, and VJ Edgecombe. So I think if you pass up on those 3 guys for Ace Bailey, it's just, to me, it's a huge gamble. And if you're going to make a huge gamble, do it at a position where you don't have a clear future. That's why, like, when they took Tre Johnson, I looked at the power forward position and I said, look, you're playing someone in Miles Bridges who you flirted with trading for a couple of seasons now, and who's, really, I think, a small ball power forward anyway. Is not like I don't think a natural fit at power forward. You could play him at 3. So with Tre Johnson, it's like, okay, he's one injury away from getting some serious playing time. That was true this last season. And I think you can see a future where Tre Johnson is power forward. With Ace Bailey, I think it's just much more difficult because he does map so cleanly onto Brandon Miller that I think those two would get in the way of each other.
One thing just positive on Ace, because with the draft stuff, I don't want to just be so negative on Ace. Like there's absolutely some areas that it could work. One thing that could combat my not wanting to draft him, there's some nice defensive potential here, where here we have this conversation about his offense not necessarily being a ball mover, a little bit more of a ball stopper. He's going to put a shot up, and he'll go ISO when you give him the ball. But defensively, he does fit the Charlotte Hornets. They have just a bunch of arms coming at you defensively. If you have LaMelo, if you have Brandon, if you have Ace Bailey, if you have Mark Williams and Miles, whatever, how you decide to do it, I do think Ace Bailey has shown some nice defensive chops. It's not consistent, but if Ace buys in and says, hey, I'm with this stuff on the other end of the court, then I could see that actually allowing him to have a floor, to see the floor, if that makes sense, and then to work on his offensive game a little bit more.
Well, so here's, again, where you're talking about, do the Hornets take Ace at 3? Because he's probably not going to be there. He might be there at 4, but he's probably not going to be there at 5, 6, 7. So if you take him at 3, you have to believe that he's going to be a good defensive player. Because if he's not, then he's not going to live up to whatever dream you have when you take a top 3 player in the NBA draft. And while I agree with you, I like when I watch Ace Bailey, I see some awareness, I see some willingness, I see some long arms getting in there and coming over and help and getting some block shots. What I don't see is like the consistent intensity that I think that Jeff Peterson and Charles Lee are demanding of players that they're bringing into this organization. That's why, and I've said it on previous shows, Ace Bailey's interview is going to be super important. If the Hornets are in the 3 slot and Ace Bailey wants to be drafted 3rd, he's going to have a stellar interview with the Charlotte Hornets.
All right, let's get to some playoff talk coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
The Boston Celtics, they drop another game after having a 20-point lead. They've had 2 20-point leads in each of these games. It's been crazy, and yet here they are in an 0-2 deficit. How badly do they need Charles Lee? That's the local angle we're going with. Coming up next, Locked On Hornets. This episode is brought to you by Open Phone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had an urgent need, maybe for a plumber or a service provider. If the first person doesn't answer, then did you wait? Probably not. You moved on. That's why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. Open Phone lets you manage business calls and texts from a single app. The shared inbox feature is a game changer. Your team can jump into any conversation instantly without missing a beat, and their AI agent handles after-hour calls, answers common questions, and captures leads so you never miss a customer. Open Phone is offering our listeners 20% off your first 6 months. at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OPENPHONE. Openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Let's find the local angle here, because the Celtics, that is the national storyline. Them dropping yet another game. The top seed compared to the New York Knicks, the 2-3 matchup. Celtics at home dropping a couple, man. It's been crazy to see them watch a 20-point lead just diminish right in front of their eyes as they continue to settle for more threes, which has been also a huge storyline. That also happened in the fourth quarter of this last game when the Knicks went on like a 21-2 run. I think the Celtics went something like 7 minutes without a field goal. It was crazy. And then Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, monster fourth quarter. I believe 14 points in the fourth quarter for Mikal Bridges after not scoring at all in the first three. So here are the Celtics, disappointing in the postseason. And Charles Lee, can we attribute their success to having Charles on the bench up there in Boston? Or are you worried that he brings that kind of choking culture here to Charlotte? Half full or half empty, Doug? How are you viewing this?
This, on its face, this seems ridiculous to say, well, Charles Lee leaving the Celtics would somehow have this much of an impact. But shout out to my guy Mitch, who's a paid supporter of every Hornets box score, who messaged me in the EHB chat and wanted to know, hey, am I alone in feeling some taking some pleasure in this? And I said, look, you got to take pleasure where you can get it in the Hornets fanosphere, right? The Hornets aren't giving you much, so you have to go to outside sources and search for it. Winning a championship is incredibly hard, and winning back-to-back championships is insanely hard to find that fire, find whatever it takes to do it all again. And I think we so often underrate that when we're talking about back-to-back champions. And I think teams of the past made it look maybe easier than it was because star talent meant so much, but we're in a new age of NBA parity where the stars are more spread out, the games are closer, there are more teams that are more competitive than we've seen in maybe ever. And so I think we can't discount some of these small changes, be it role players, essential role players, 9, 10 guys. A lot of people talking now about how teams used to be as good as the best player. Like if you had the best player in the series, you won the series. Now it seems like in this new age of parity, teams are only as good as the 9th, 10th, 11th player that they're playing, the weakest link. It's turned from strongest player to weakest link. And maybe one of the stronger links in Boston was Charles Lee. He was often credited as being someone that was the organizer to Mazzulla's madness. And if you look at that game too, a lot of people critiquing Mazzulla not calling timeout when Jason Tatum, really even just before Jason Tatum got started on that final possession, but when the possession started to break down, no timeout gets called there. You wonder a little bit if Charles Lee would have had some kind of influence there. So yeah, I think it sounds crazy, but we can't discount this idea that you make these little tweaks to these championship teams, and in this age of parity, sometimes that can be damaging.
We do this with the NFL. When the NFL teams lose their coordinators after going on a Super Bowl run, that's something that matters, especially because they have so much more influence. And I do believe that. I think an offensive coordinator, he's your play caller, so he has a huge influence over the game plan. Charles Lee, though, is absolutely somebody that Joe Mazzulla would lean on every now and then. What's funny is the story on Mazzulla, all the criticism that he received 2 years ago when they dropped that series to the Miami Heat, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was the 0-3 deficit, come back, force a game 7. I think Mazzulla was the head coach. But if not, Mazzulla's first year, Mazzulla just the timeout thing, people had so much criticism for it. Like he wouldn't call them. Last year, that got better. And that was the one and only year that Charles Lee was on the staff. So you know what? I'm with it. And this year, did it get worse in this game? I don't know if it's been a storyline all year long, but this is the storyline for this game at the end of this one. So I love it, baby. Let's just attribute all their success to Charles Lee, and he's here in Charlotte, and we're not giving him back.
Well, you mentioned the coordinator thing, and I think more teams are moving to that style than you would think. I mean, I think famously right now, Phoenix was in that mode where they, and Denver too, where they have specific assistants that are responsible for like offensive and defensive development. We don't call them that in the NBA. And I'll also tell you this, that there are a lot of head coaches in this league that will not let certain assistants talk to the media, whether it be sideline interviews or just like in-house team media interviews, because they're so afraid that other teams are going to come along and say, ooh, that guy's smart, or I like that guy, and I want to bring that person onto my team. So I think the NBA head coaches are very aware of the impact that these assistants have, and they're also very aware of other sports like the NFL, where you have offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators, and we give them these titles and that match their responsibility. And then other teams come along and say, ooh, that offense is great, I'll take the offensive coordinator. And that's why you don't really see that in the NBA. So, yeah.
I will say Hornets fans, as it pertains to the ones that listen to WFNZ, they've gone the other way on this. They're saying, no, is that going to be the system we run here in Charlotte? Because we took so many threes at the beginning of the season, and then they shifted as the personnel shifted because of injuries. So is this what we're going to do if we ever get to the postseason? Is this something that works for the Hornets team? Like what's going on with the Celtics? Yeah. People have been going the other way, but I like your angle. I like a positive angle on us having the coach that actually is the reason for their championship run last year. Mock draft time. What you got for the people?
Mock draft. I've got one from Adam Finkelstein of CBS Sports. He just updated his mock draft on May 5th. And with the third selection, the Charlotte Hornets take Ace Bailey. And Finkelstein writing, this would be a very interesting decision for the Hornets, with Edgecombe and maybe Johnson likely getting consideration. While I don't love the fit of Bailey alongside Brandon Miller and understand the concerns about his inconsistent impact on winning, I think his upside is too high to pass on here. He's a high-level athlete and jumbo wing with terrific positional size and some extreme tough shot-making ability, and that's a recipe that typically leads to all-star games. And look, I am scared of passing up on Ace Bailey. I am scared that he becomes a multi-time all-star and the Hornets kick themselves. I do think that the Hornets fall in love with intangibles, and I don't know if Ace Bailey, I'm not saying Ace Bailey doesn't have those. I'm just saying I think they've fallen in love with intangibles before. And so if he does it and they sort of discover that in their interview process and whatever draft work they do, I think that could result in him not being taken and then passing up on the upside. And I think the passing numbers are super concerning when you're talking about what is the profile of a player of Ace Bailey's size and skill. Like, what's the profile of that player turning in to a multi-time all-star? And it doesn't match. It doesn't map with his assist percentage numbers. It just doesn't.
The more you do this, the more you start to value feel so much more evaluating prospects. Do they have a good feel for the game? And I know Shaq will always tell you basketball IQ is overrated, but when you're 330 pounds and just dunk over everybody, that it might be overrated. Yeah. I've missed on so many guys that I'm a little worried that don't have the athleticism or don't shoot nearly as well, that play out there on the perimeter. But the guys that survive in this league just know the right decision-making process. It happens quite a bit. And so I don't see that with Ace. And so I could miss that. I mean it, right? You're going to be most nervous selecting him or most nervous passing on him. But that's just the type of player that Ace Bailey is. That'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast. That does include YouTube. Go check out Doug with more big board material, more material on everyhornetsboxscore.com. I don't know what he's writing up there, but there's a lot. Okay,
article coming today or tomorrow.
There's a project he's working on too with everyhornetsboxscore.com, so check that out. Locked On NBA also with Matt Moore and Hayes. Make that your second listen. WFNZ, that's where I am. Sports Radio, 92.7 WFNZ, 12 to 3 p.m. every weekday with Wes and Walker. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.